In the heart of a lush green meadow, nestled among swaying grasses and colorful wildflowers, stood a sturdy oak tree. It was here in this very tree that Busby's adventure began. Busby wasn't just any bee. He had stripes of crimson on his back and wings that shimmered like amethysts in the sunlight. Today was his first day out of the hive, his first day to explore the vast world beyond the safety of his home. A mix of excitement and nervousness buzzed within him, mirroring the fluttering of his wings. He took off into the bright blue sky, leaving the hive and its inhabitants to their daily routine. His first mission, find nectar and pollen and bring them back to the hive. As he flew over the meadow, the wind whispering tales of the world through his fuzzy body, he saw a patch of sunflowers, their golden heads heavy with the promise of sweet nectar. Landing on a petal, he began his work, sipping the flower's offering and collecting pollen on his furry legs. As he moved from flower to flower, he heard a voice that made him stop in his tracks. Who goes there? A bumblebee, plump and fuzzy, hovered before him. I am Busby, he replied, a bit intimidated by the older bee's booming voice. And I'm here to gather pollen and nectar. The bumblebee studied him for a moment. Are you new here? You seem a little lost, Busby nodded, feeling a blush creep up his thorax. This is your first time collecting pollen, isn't it? The bumblebee asked, a kind smile on his face. How did you find this place? Busby explained how he had flown straight from the hive, relying on his instincts and the scent of flowers to guide him. The bumblebee chuckled, a deep rumble in his chest. You young ones are always so eager. Well, if you want to learn about the best flowers for nectar and pollen and where to find them, come with me. And so, under the guidance of the experienced bumblebee, Busby learned the secrets of the meadow, the best flowers to visit at different times of the day, and the art of collecting pollen without damaging the plant. By the time the sun began its slow descent, Busby's pollen baskets were brimming, and his wings, heavy with the effort of the day, longed for rest. Together, they returned to the oak tree where Busby had started his journey. Here, hidden in a hollowed-out branch, lived a wise old bee named Elderbloom. Elderbloom's stripes were a tapestry of silver, and his wings, when unfolded, looked like stained glass windows catching the last rays of the sunset. Busby and the bumblebee landed before him, and Busby, with a deep sense of respect, emptied his baskets at Elderbloom's feet. Elderbloom, with his ancient eyes, saw not just the pollen and nectar, but the potential within the young bee. Busby, he said, his voice a low hum, you have a keen eye for detail and a gentle touch, qualities of a great builder. Busby's antennae drooped. But Elderbloom, he protested, I want to be an explorer like Bartholomew. Bartholomew, the bumblebee who had helped Busby during the day, was known for his daring flights far beyond the meadow to distant lands filled with exotic flowers. Busby longed to explore those lands too. Elderbloom raised a hand, silencing Busby's protest. Being an explorer is not the only path to greatness, Busby. Your talents lie elsewhere, and I believe you'll make an excellent builder. Before Busby could argue further, Elderbloom continued, your first task will be to strengthen the entrance to our home. It's become a bit loose and needs fixing. With a final nod, Elderbloom dismissed him. Busby looked at the entrance of the hive. It didn't seem like much of a task, just a few adjustments to the wax and propolis. But as he began his work, he realized it was harder than it looked. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the meadow, Busby was still struggling with the entrance. Discouraged, he sat on a nearby leaf, watching the fireflies light up the darkening sky. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. Having some trouble, Busby? It was Bartholomew. I couldn't help but notice you working on the entrance. Busby sighed. It's harder than it looks, and I'm not very good at it yet. Bartholomew landed beside him, his wings a blur of yellow in the fading light. Building isn't easy, but it's also not as exciting as exploring faraway lands. Don't you wish you could see the world, Busby? Busby looked at the distant hills, a longing in his eyes. Of course I do. But Elder Bloom believes I can make a difference here, and I want to make him proud. Busby turned back to his work, determined to fix the entrance before the night grew too dark. Bartholomew watched him for a moment, then with a final wave, he disappeared into the gathering darkness. Inspired by Bartholomew's example, Busby worked with renewed vigor. He remembered Elder Bloom's words about making a difference, and he wanted to prove that builders could be important too. As the first rays of sunlight touched the meadow, Busby finished his work. The entrance was secure and strong, ready to protect the hive and its inhabitants. Busby flew to Elder Bloom, who was just emerging from the hive. "Elder Bloom," he said proudly, "I finished the entrance." Elder Bloom inspected it, his ancient eyes gleaming with approval. "Well done, Busby. You have a natural talent for this." Then, as if remembering something, he added, "Why don't you take a break now and explore a bit? You've earned it." Busby couldn't hide the smile that spread across his face. He took off into the sky, soaring above the meadow, the wind singing in his ears. Below him, he saw Bartholomew returning from one of his explorations, his legs heavy with pollen. As Busby watched him land, he realized that being a builder didn't mean he couldn't explore at all. He could still see the world, collect rare pollen, and maybe even find new plants to share with his hive mates. Maybe being a builder meant that he could make a difference in the world in his own special way. Busby landed beside Bartholomew, and the two bees began swapping stories about their adventures. One was an explorer who braved the unknown, and the other a builder who shaped the world around him. They were different, yet their roles were equally important to the survival and growth of their hive. As the day wore on, they talked about everything, from the sweetest clover blossoms to the most distant mountains they had seen. By the time the sun began its slow dip below the horizon, they had become the best of friends, united by their love for their hive and their respect for each other's roles. Looking up at the sky filled with stars, Busby knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and adventures. But for now, he was content. The day of bees, the story of Busby, the bee who would rather build than fly. If you like this story, please leave a thumbs up. And if you want more stories about Busby, let us know in the comments.